Hello everyone and welcome back to The Games Must Go On. Today we're going to be taking on Super Mario Galaxy Coinless. So without further ado, let's go. Before we start the run, we need to ask the question. What is a coin? For the purpose of this run, I'm only going to be counting the yellow coins as coins. This is because purple coins and question mark coins don't increase your health, as well as they don't add to the coin counter. For these reasons, I'm not going to be counting them as coins. But with that out of the way, let's jump into the first level. Our first stop on this coinless quest is to take down the Gateway Galaxy, where we only have one major problem, that being there's a coin directly over our crater that has a rabbit in it. And in order to unlock our spin power, we're going to need to free him. Thankfully, by going ahead and edging off the ledge of a crater, we can just barely avoid the coin. And with that, we're able to go ahead and start the game. Because we have a lot of stars to get through, in order to get through them quicker, I'm going to be going ahead and at the beginning of every single dome, I'm going to show every level with every star in a color code. This is in order to show which levels are easier than others. Green being extremely easy and not being much to talk about, yellow being a little bit difficult to having a whole lot of problems, red being completely impossible, and grayed out meaning inaccessible. And we're going to be trying to get every single star. So without further ado, let's go through the terrace. Our first level in the terrace is Good Egg Galaxy, which doesn't really have any problems. The only thing that could be remotely considered challenging is in the 2D section in the second level. Here we have a crystal with a coin in it, although I was able to do a precise jump in order to get past it, or you could just wait. But with that, we're able to move on to Honey Hive Galaxy, which really doesn't have anything challenging in any of its 6 stars. Our next level is Loop-de-Loop Galaxy, which thankfully doesn't contain many coins, although the ones that it does contain are kind of hard to dodge. This is because we have to use motion controls in order to control the ray, although it's not too much of a hassle. Thankfully, the next 3 galaxies are all pretty easy to beat as well, these being Sweet Sweet Galaxy, Flip Switch Galaxy, and Bowser Jr.'s Robot Reactor, all of which contain a pitiful amount of coins, and are really easy to beat. But with that, we're already done with the terrace, and we're able to move on to the fountain. Our first level in the fountain is Space Junk Galaxy, and it's a pretty hard level. This is because we have to go through several Pulsar sections, in several levels, these including levels 1, 3, 4, and 6. Now, while levels 3 and 6 only include one Pulsar section, that isn't really that challenging. Levels 1 and 4 are a completely different story. Now, while all 4 of these levels have a little section at the very beginning, levels 1 and 4 include multiple, including one really difficult section at the end, but there are multiple ways to succeed through, although they are really difficult either way. And level 4 being especially difficult because 1 is a speedy comet, giving us limited time, and also at the very end, where you're collecting silver stars, you get the additional bonus of added coin rings in a section you can't take damage. Because reasons. Yeah, these coin rings don't even matter, but they're just a big hassle in this run. But we're able to avoid them, and with that, levels 2 and 5 are pieces of cake, and we're able to go ahead and proceed to the Battle Rock Galaxy. Welcome to Battle Rock Galaxy, and this level is actually pretty interesting. For one, it's one of only 2 levels that features 7 stars, and it's one of the only 2 levels that has an impossible star. Now, thankfully 4 of the stars here are really easy, those being levels 1, 5, 6, and 7, although the other 3 levels have some sort of problem with it. Star 2 features a launch star with coins directly above it. Now you'd probably think, well, just go ahead and shake when you get to the launch star. Well, sadly, you have to take a sling star up, and the launch star doesn't activate until you pass through it, go up and collect the coins, and then fall back down into it. So it's seemingly impossible to avoid these coins. But there is a little quirk with the game. Now, the way I think it works is by pointing in first person view your controller and shooting star bits at a launch star, it'll actually activate it. I feel like this works because the game now finds the launch star activated, and it actually gives it time to activate. When you get launched directly through it with the sling star, it doesn't have enough time to do so. And now that it's activated, once you fly into it, you can immediately shake and you don't have to wait for it to start up, meaning you immediately can shake it and go through it instead of just flying up and hitting those coins. This thankfully makes this level possible, although the next star isn't so lucky. Welcome everyone to Star Free of Battle Rock Galaxy, and sadly it's completely impossible, and this is due to one major thing, that being there's a coin located directly into a sling star, and this sling star is required. Now, unlike the last star which had a coin in a sling star's path, this one isn't avoidable, because the coin's physically inside of the sling star, and there's no wiggle room around it. Now, you might be thinking, well, why not just skip the sling star? And that has been tried to even go over and around the battle rock and just make it to the launch star outside. Although, due to depth barriers and weird terrain, it hasn't been discovered yet to be possible. Even the amazing Tazzer, Purple Sun, hasn't been able to figure anything out about it. And he's made some pretty incredible stuff on the no power-up run, as well as the low spin category and low A-press category of Mario Galaxy. So sadly, this star is impossible, and in turn this makes the next star, Star 4, inaccessible, as it's a daredevil run of Star Free. But with that, we're going to go ahead and take our loss and move on to the next galaxy. Now in Green Hill Zone, or Rolling Green Zone, we find the game does not pull any more punches. That's because we get another motion control stage, and it has two major problems. The first of which being, the stage is completely littered in coins. Everywhere there's coins and coins. But that's not even the worst problem. That comes from the fact that we have to go through a bowl. And this bowl is covered in coins. I mean, how are we ever going to get down that hole? We're not. By jumping off the stage at the right angle, we can go ahead and land on the little coaster that's supposed to take us on to the next section. And I was actually able to get it in only a few shots. And this allows us to move on to the last section, which is again littered in coins, and this allows us to make it to the end. And then we're able to move on to the next galaxy. While the Hurry Scurry Galaxy doesn't have many coins at all, the Sling Pod Galaxy definitely ramps up the difficulty. That is because we have coins in between Sling Pods and between Pole Stars, although thankfully most coins on the Sling Pods are on split paths, so we're just able to go around them. Although for coins in the Pole Stars, we have to be a little bit more creative. By pointing at the screen and shooting star bits, we can actually destroy these mines, which will create a path forward. And we have plenty of star bits here, so we can actually farm them in the future for Hungry Lumas. But with that, we're able to beat this level and move on to Bowser's Star Reactor, which is thankfully a piece of cake. And with that, we're able to move on to the kitchen. While the fountain was definitely difficult, the kitchen dials it back a little bit with its two main levels, these being Beach Bowl Galaxy and Ghostly Galaxy. Now, In Beach Bowl Galaxy, stars 2, 4, 5, and 6 are all pretty easy, and stars 1 and 3 not far behind. The only tricky part in star 1 is actually getting up a little section that you're normally supposed to use wall jumps in order to get up, but we can just skip it with a backflip. And then star 3 has a coin in a crate that we have to get past, but we can just wait for the coin to despawn. In Ghostly Galaxy, it's a little bit more tricky, where in order to skip some coins in a hallway, I decided to play it safe and go ahead and jump off a ledge in order to perform a glitch that sends us through the floor, skipping the hallway entirely. This allows us to skip the Boo Mushroom, and I actually performed it in the No Power-Ups run. A link to that will be in the top right corner. But with that, star 3 isn't much harder. Well, it's actually quite easier, as the only thing in that star is a star chip above some coins that we have to shoot to with a sling pod. It's actually not that hard to hit, but it is a little tricky. Stars 2, 4, 5, and 6 are all pretty easy again. But with that, we're able to move from the easy levels to the really difficult levels, those being Bubble Breeze Galaxy and Buoy Base Galaxy. Let's go! In Buoy Base Galaxy, while the secret star is completely a piece of cake, the first star is going to take a little bit of finesse. That's because the entire above water section in this level is of course littered with coins. But there's nothing that a little bit of precise movement won't solve. So by doing some precise jumps, we're able to make it up this entire tower and collect the star. Although for Bubble Breeze Galaxy it's not going to be as easy. That's because while the first section is completely possible, the second section is 100% impossible. But who cares? We don't have to do that. We can just do an easy clip by doing a backflip in order to just skip it. And with that, we've already completed most of the kitchen. All we have left is the baby level Drip Drop Galaxy, which has almost no coins, as well as Bowser Jr.'s Airship Armada, which also is a piece of cake. And with that, we're already done with the kitchen and we're able to move on to the bedroom. Now that we're in the bedroom, we get access to two really easy galaxies, these being Gusty Garden Galaxy and Freeze Flame Galaxy, the former only having one problem, that being in Star 3, where we have to go ahead and get in a launch star that is of course surrounded by coins. Although, just by jumping into the launch star, we're able to avoid these coins, and thankfully the launch star doesn't send us into them. So with that, we're able to proceed with the other 5 stars in this galaxy and move on to Freeze Flame Galaxy. Now this galaxy has a couple of problems. The first being in Star 1, in the actual boss arena with Baron Burr. Now, we're supposed to use the Ice Flower in order to wall jump up these little sides of the boss arena, but there's coins there, so we can just go ahead and ignore that and backflip from one of these shields from his ice. This allows us to go ahead and collect the star. Now, the second level is a little bit more tricky. This one includes the ability to use a death trick. Now, by going ahead and not collecting any coins in this little wall jump section, we can go ahead and hit the checkpoint for our respawn by climbing up the back of this little pillar. After doing this, we die and we respawn in the right area. This allows us to go ahead and collect the star without even dealing with the wall jumping section. Next, we're able to go ahead and move on to the 5th star, because stars 3, 4, and 6 are all pretty easy. But star 5 does have a small little part where we have to grab some item behind some crystals with coins in them. In order to get behind them, we actually have to break these crystals, but by letting the coins despawn, we're able to get past them. But then we make it to Dusty Dune Galaxy, which we have a major problem with. Here in Dusty Dune Galaxy, we have one major problem, and this comes from Star 2. While Star 1 is completely possible and completely easy to beat, Star 2 has one major problem, and it's right at the beginning. We have a coin inside of a launch star, which of course prevents us from actually getting, well, anywhere in the level. Now, one idea that people might have thought about, even back in the Battle Rock stage, is, well, just collect a coin, go through the launch star, and then just die, and that'll reset the coin counter. But, in my eyes, I feel like that's a form of cheating. So we're not going to be doing that. But because of this coin in a launch star, this hurts us immensely. Because this means Star 2 is impossible, which makes Star 3 inaccessible, as well as Star 4 inaccessible, 5 inaccessible, 6 inaccessible, as well as 7 inaccessible. And of course, one of these stars is a green star. And that means we also lose accessibility to the Trial Master galaxies. And because of all these losses, we also lose the ability to go to the Finale Galaxy, which effectively removes a whole lot of levels. But sadly, because these coins are inside of launch stars, there's not much we can do about it. So we're just going to have to move on to the next galaxy. Even after Dusty Dune Galaxy, the game doesn't show remorse, as we have 3 really hard galaxies upcoming, the first of which being Honeyclimb Galaxy, which is here to show us, yeah, B Mario can climb on walls. But it does include a lot of coins on these walls. So in order to make it past, we're going to need to use some careful movement. But thankfully we can do some precise jumps and flies, and we can make it past all the coins. The next level is a whole lot easier, that being Big Mouth Galaxy. This level, the only real problem is by shining light from the shell at boos, they'll actually turn into coins, which are just as deadly as the ghosts. But it doesn't really harm us, as we can just go quickly through the level. And then the last level that will give us trouble in this galaxy is Bowser's Dark Matter Plant. And this level includes lots of 2D sections, with whole lots of coins. Although by using ducking and actually going ahead and doing some really precise jumps in between gravity flips, we're able to make it past every single one of these precarious coins. Which is thankful, because this is a Grand Star, and this could easily have been the end of a run. But with that, we're able to complete the bedroom and move on to the engine room. Here we are at the engine room. Will this dome be terrible? Will it make me rage quit in difficulty? Actually, no. This dome is actually the easiest of all of them, featuring not a single problem. There's no problems in Goldleaf Galaxy, Sea Slide Galaxy, Toy Time Galaxy, Bonefin Galaxy, or Sand Spiral Galaxy, which is actually pretty crazy. And no, there's not even one in the boss, that being Bowser Jr.'s Lava Reactor, making the engine room completely possible, in fact, easy. But that doesn't mean the rest of the levels are. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the gate. Here we are at the gate. While the main level, the Gateway Galaxy, only has one problem in the first star, that being the coin over the crater, the second star doesn't feature any problems. There is one problem in the gate, that being in the Hungry Luma. Oh boy, Boneyard Galaxy, let's go. Now, if you remember back to Ghostly Galaxy, we had a hallway filled to the brim with coins, and that's why we avoided it by doing a glitch in order to skip that hallway, because who would ever want to deal with a tight space with coins with Boo Mario's enlarged hitbox and mechanics. So now we get to Boneyard Galaxy, which, let me explain it, you get to use Boo Mario, his floating mechanics, in a 2D section with tight spaces filled to the brim with coins in a timed segment. Fun! The level starts with you having to do a backflip over some coins, and then you have to make your way back up this little section with Boo Mario, making sure not to bounce off the ceiling into some coins. Then you can actually start the level. Then you make it through this entire little passageway with coins, of course, literally everywhere. And then just barely you'll be able to make it to the end to realize it was all for nothing, as there's one singular coin at the very end that with Boo Mario's front to back hitbox in this 2D section doesn't let you past. But who in the world said we needed to use his front to back hitbox? We can turn Boo Mario in just a way to just barely be able to squeeze between that coin and the wall. It's crazy difficult, but just barely we're able to beat the Boo, and we're able to make it past this entire horrible monstrosity of a level and collect the star. And with that, we're done with the gate and we're able to proceed on to the garden. Let's go. Now that we're in the garden, our journey is coming to an end, although that doesn't mean the game's getting easier. Now that we're in the last dome, we're going to have quite a few more challenges. The first of which is in the Deep Dark Galaxy, which has 3 stars in particular that we're going to need to look at. The first of which is Star 1. In this star, we have one challenging spot with a lever that we have to hit, but because we're underwater, and it's a lever, we have to go ahead and spin into it. But right next to it is, of course, some blocks with coins in it. So we have to make sure we don't activate these blocks, otherwise we'll get coins from them. But thankfully, with some good maneuvering, we're able to go ahead and only hit the lever. After that, we have Star 2, which is pretty easy actually, until we get to the star, which of course spawns directly over a coin. This is in the absolute worst spot for the star. But by doing a precise jump over the coin, we're able to collect the star and not receive the coin. And we can make sure of this by actually looking at our totals after we go ahead and collect the star, as we'll be sent back and we can actually see that there's no little menu that will show us that we've collected a coin. But with that, now we can actually breeze through stars 3, 4, and 5 and move on to star 6, which only has one little problem. That being, in the puzzle cube, you have a coin in between these little swinging poles. But by doing some jumps, you're able to go ahead and proceed without much trouble, although it is a little tricky to get down. And while you might think it would be difficult in order to get back, it really isn't, as you can actually just go ahead and collect the star on the last gravity without actually having to switch it back to normal, which is good. Next up is the Dreadnought Galaxy, which has absolutely no problems in any of the 6 stars. But then the heat gets starting to be turned up in Melty Molten Galaxy. Let's go. Melty Molten Galaxy definitely doesn't play around. The first 3 stars include some really challenging elements, the first of which being in Star 1. Here we have to climb the lava spire, which isn't really that difficult until we get to the fact that we have to do some wall jumps up another section where, because it's wall jumping, it has to include coins. So instead of doing that, we're going to backflip onto this platform, let the lava rise before damage boosting our way across. Next, in Star 2, we have not something that's technically difficult, we have something that's physically difficult. That being, making our way across the level on a star ball. Because who doesn't love the Star Ball? I mean, it has motion controls in it, and tons of coins, even though you can't take damage on it, because that makes sense. But yeah, this level definitely is kind of annoying because you have these coin rings and you actually have to do some really careful jumps around them in order to beat this level. But with that, we're able to go ahead and proceed on to Star 3, which only has one really difficult section, where we actually have to defeat enemies in order to build a launch star, which isn't terribly difficult, although when we defeat these enemies, coins come out of them, so we have to be careful not to actually collect any. But with that, Melting Molten Galaxy is pretty much done. Stars 4, 5, and 6 are all pieces of cake, especially Star 4 and a lot of Star 4s because they're Daredevil missions. And because of this, no coins. And with that, we're on to the last few missions, which aren't even full galaxies, they're just sort of subset galaxies. So let's run through them. First up is the Matter Splatter Galaxy, which thankfully is pretty barren of coins. And the same can be said for the Snowcap Galaxy, also pretty barren. But then we get to the Trial Masters galaxies, as well as the Finale Galaxy, which all sadly must be marked inaccessible due to the fact that we can't get that last green star. But with that, we can move on to Bowser's Galaxy Reactor. Now, this level is actually pretty tough, but that's due to the fact that we don't really have many coins. And this becomes annoying because we actually have to make it through here with only 3 hit points. But it's not too terribly difficult of a level, so we're actually able to make it through pretty easily. And with that, we can take down Bowser, and with that, Peach is saved, and that is Super Mario Galaxy Coinless. Let's go over some statistics. Running through our totals, a whole 79 stars, or 65%, can be completed with little to no difficulty, as well as 30 stars, or 25% of all stars, can be completed with some sort of challenge. Now sadly, 2 stars are impossible, or 2%, and a whole 10 stars are inaccessible, or 8%. This means we have about a 90% clearance rate for every single level in this entire game, which I'd say is pretty good. But with that, this has been another episode of The Games Must Go On. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.